Question number 5. Public safety knows no geographic boundaries. As sheriff, there will be many instances where your office will have to work in tandem with other local law enforcement agencies. Talk about 3 emerging issues that will require a collaborative effort across jurisdictional boundaries. And we'll start with Mr. Wilder.
Okay, well, we have all kinds of emergencies that the sheriff's office is responsible for. If we have an earthquake, if we have a terrorist attack, if we have, well, I can think of 2 of those 2. Say if we have a wildfire, earthquake, terrorist attack, wildfire. If we have an earthquake, we're right now depending on the reverse 911 system to be able to evacuate everybody. That's not going to work because nobody's going to have a cell phone. So we don't have procedures in place for either that or wildfires to be able to effectively deal with it. When I was working for the sheriff's office, I was in charge of all emergency planning, and we worked with all of the police agencies in the county and the fire services, and I had in place all of the communications channels so that we could instantly switch over and communicate with the other police departments, coordinate effectively, and with the fire departments. As soon as I left, that went away. They no longer have those communication channels. They haven't done any emergency planning since I left. They don't do crowd control training. They don't do incident command training. Incident command training is how you run an emergency operation. We used to train all the time with the fire departments. We don't do that anymore. I would certainly bring that back. It's incredibly important. We need to communicate, we need to coordinate resources, and we need to do pre-evacuation planning. We had a big wildfire years ago up on the summit, and in the aftermath of that, I realized that we need to have pre-evacuation planning in place. So we set that up. I had all the service centers that had pre-evacuation plans for deputies who could evacuate people within 20 minutes of an emergency, and we knew how many teams we need to bring about. That's all been lost in the shuffle. They don't do that anymore. So, it's back to the basics of law enforcement and public safety. We need to have plans in place, and we need to have training in place so that people know what to do with the plans in an emergency and do it immediately. Thank you.
And Mr. Persley.
When you have law enforcement agencies such as the Sheriff's Office, we're responsible for coordinating anything larger than, say, the Santa Cruz Police Department can handle, Watsonville, Scotts Valley, Capitola. We are the agency that comes in. We provide the support, the coordination, and the response. So with that, we have to be able to, 1, communicate with those agencies and properly coordinate all of the actions that will take place. We're responsible for requesting outside assistance for those agencies. What that takes is knowing the agency's capabilities and their equipment capabilities. Without that, you're lost. You don't know their numbers, you don't know their equipment capabilities, you can't respond properly to an issue. Some of those issues might be a natural disaster, could be civil disturbance, could be just a crime wave where they need some outside assistance from our department to come in to bolster their staffing to help them combat that. But without being able to respond properly, coordinate properly, and to support them properly, that will be a negative. So it's our job to make sure that we know what the resources are available within our region, and know how to catalog them, know where they are, and know what our resources are in order to support each one of the agencies that should call or combine all agencies in the county to take care of what issue might have come up on a large scale. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hart.
Could you repeat the question again, please?
Public safety knows no geographic boundaries. As sheriff, there will be many instances where your office will have to work in tandem with other local law enforcement agencies. Talk about 3 emerging issues that will require a collaborative effort across jurisdictional boundaries.
So 3 emerging issues. I don't think we need to talk about all the possible scenarios that can happen in Santa Cruz County. We know that fire, floods, and earthquakes are always a possibility. But from a policy level and from a level where the sheriff, who's the chief law enforcement officer in the county, is going to work with the chief of police and the DA and the probation chief, some emerging issues that I see are, first of all, what I'm going to advocate for in my first year, my first term, is a sobering center. And that's taking all the people that are arrested for public intoxication. We book 12,000 people a year through one door at the county jail. This year, or last year, we booked 14,000, but we average about 12,000 a year through one door at the county jail. Average about 5,000 of those are for public intoxication. What's really a healthcare issue, somebody drank too much and they get taken to jail and put in a drunk tank. And what I want to do is treat those people a little more humanely than that. And I want, and the downside of that is it takes officers off the street. Officers have to wait in line to get into jail. Sometimes they have to go to the hospital to get the person cleared, and then they'll bring the person back to the jail. I want to partner with the area hospitals, with health services, and the local cities, and establish a sobering center where, rather than taking the officers off the street for a person who's too intoxicated, the officer can take the intoxicated person to the sobering center, drop them off. That person will be treated by medical staff at that location, and then the officer can get back on the street. And at that sobering center, the person would be offered to stay there for a couple days, get their feet under them, get some medication in them, or whatever the doctor orders, and then guided into services so that we don't repeat this cycle of intoxication and arrest, release, intoxication, arrest, release that happens over and over and over with a lot of these intoxicated people. The other thing I really want to examine is partnering with the local cities on a county-wide hiring unit. Right now, each agency in the county runs their own hiring team. And they give tests and they go through all the work that it takes to hire a police officer. And if somebody wants to work for Watsonville, they have to go test with Watsonville. If they want to work for the sheriff, they have to go test at the sheriff's office. If we had a county-wide hiring program, we could have one test center, one test state where they go through all the tests. We can consolidate our efforts and our services, cut down on personnel and staffing costs. Lastly, what we're already doing is we're partnering with all the agencies in the county in our new building. We're building a brand new emergency operations center that's being taken out of De La Viega, which is a one-lane road, which is a really bad in a disaster. And we're bringing it down to mid-county at the new sheriff's office so that during any disaster, all agencies, all criminal justice partners will meet at the emergency operations center and work the disaster. Thank you.